Drills, scrimmages, roster sheets, and interviews. What is it? It's day 2 of camp for the Montreal Canadiens, where the guys finally hit the ice all together, along with Marty St. Louis and his coaching staff. Let's talk some puck. Hey, gang, welcome back to Puck Talk Montreal. I am, of course, Costa. And before we go any further, first of all, I want to thank you guys for all the support. We've reached 2,700 subscribers, continue to grow. It's only been a year, and the growth has been great. Please make sure that you hit the thumbs up on the videos. And if you're not already subscribed, please do so and hit the notification bell as well to get all the latest and greatest from the channel. And before we get into everything that we're going to talk about in today's episode, one of the things I wanted to talk about was a situation that happened with me just last night. Just over a week ago, my sister lost her mother-in-law, 80-something years old. I don't remember her age, to be quite honest. And her viewing was last night. And as we're all sitting there, you know, my brothers, my wife, my nephews and nieces, and we're all huge Canadiens fans, in comes Patrice Brisebois and his wife. There was a stunned silence throughout the room. We all sat there thinking to ourselves, why in the world would a Canadiens alumni, a Stanley Cup winner, be walking into the funeral of an 80-something-year-old Greek woman? Well, it just so happens my brother-in-law's sister does Brisebois' wife's hair. So she wanted to come pay her respects, and of course, Patrice came and accompanied her. But the funniest part about all this is that my nephew, who's 43 years old, realized that Brisebois was there, and as Brisebois came to the receiving line to give his condolences, he saw the look on my nephew's face, who kind of grinned at him like, I know who you are. And Brisebois smiled and shook his hand and walked away. And then he sat down for 10 minutes, noticed the rest of us looking at him and smiling, and sat down for 10 minutes with his wife and left. A beautiful gesture by a guy who really doesn't have to be there other than to support his wife. And honestly, you know, it was nice to see him out and about. He looks great, and he looks like he could absolutely get back at the uniform tomorrow and be on the Canadiens' defense. That's what kind of shape he looks in, and he looks like he hasn't aged a day since he retired. It's so weird, but, you know, it is what it is. Now, on to the absolute best part of this show, and that is the drills and spills of day 2 of Canadiens camp. Yesterday, Marty St. Louis put his players through the paces, and you could tell just by looking at, yes, that's Kirby Doc sitting along the boards. You guys are going to start banging the stick, trying to push guys, hurry up, let's get through this so we can move on. And then, of course, later on in the ice session, the Canadiens did manage to scrimmage. The red team winning 2-0. And a couple of things came out of this. The goals were scored, of course, by Sikorsky getting the first one and Yansky getting the second one. A few things came out of this. Number one, there were a lot of people who were discouraged with how Owen Beck showed during the scrimmage. And that's not a good sign. There are a lot of people that like Owen Beck. And if he's going to make the Montreal Canadiens and push for a spot, he can't afford to take a day off. And guess what? He took a day off. He did not look good on the ice. And, you know, there's just no cohesion at all with his line mates. And so, you know, a lot of people are worried about it now. And if he doesn't show a little bit better, hopefully by the time the exhibition game starts, he looks a little bit better. But if he doesn't, the AHL is going to be his destination once again with the Canadiens. But a couple of guys that did look good. Number one, Arbor Xhekaj looked completely different on the ice defensively, a little bit more responsible in his own zone, which he was and wasn't last season. And that's kind of what got him into Marty St. Louis' doghouse. But he did look good out there. He played well offensively and defensively. He was solid. Vincent Rohrs looked very good. He can definitely play hockey. And he looked very, very good on the ice. And, of course, those are your usual suspects, the guys that have been there all summer. The goalies, the Demidovs, the Line A's, and such, all looking good. Another guy who looked good was Kirby Doc. But first, before we go into some of the interviews and clips that we cut, let's take a look at the rosters and the way they've been broken down by the Canadiens. And, of course, nothing works. There it is. And so this is the roster for the Montreal Canadiens. I know it's a little difficult to see, but I'll go over it, right? Group A is a little bit larger than you'd expect. A lot of the guys on Group A are AHL caliber players. They are not NHL players. So that's why you have a little more as far as depth is concerned there. You know, you got the likes of Dauphin, Deneen, Dunlop, Gurionov, Kapanen, Thorpe, Tuck, Florian Jacki. So you could see how that's built. And I would presume that the way Marty St. Louis was talking, this is the group that would be filtered down from the beginning, and the first cuts would come from that group. Then you look at the defensive side of that group. You've got Del Gaizo, Goalie, Hudson, Derek Louison, Charles Martin, Owen Protz, and David Reinbacher. Of course, that's going to be whittled down as well because there are 7 defensemen on that list. That will get whittled down pretty quickly to a good, reasonable number. Then, of course, you've got the goaltenders in Group A, Montembeault, Goudreau, and Kevin Mandolese, who was signed to a PTO by the Canadiens earlier last week. Group B, Anderson, Beck, Bolduc, Davidson, Estapa, who also looked very good, by the way, in today's scrimmage. Evans, Gallagher, Riley Kidney, Newhook, and Simoneau. Defensively, Carrier, Clermont, O'Rourke, Struble, and Arbor, Jacki, and in goal, Dobesh and Capo Kakinen. Those 2 guys are the part of the group that everyone's going to be looking at the most because that's going to be the battle for the backup position. Who will it be? Will it be Dobesh? Will it be Kakinen? We won't know until they perform in exhibition games. Everybody wants Dobesh, right? Because we think he's earned it, and I would tend to agree. But Capo Kakinen is making a little bit more, and he's not waiver exempt. So we'll see where the Canadians go with that. And then, of course, there's Group C, where you've got Belzile, Caulfield, Kandata, Farrell, Meshar, Mianskim, Roy, Slavkovsky, Suzuki up front. Dobson, Ekstrom, Matheson, Paquette, and Bisson on the back end. So that's 5 defensemen in that group. And then, of course, you've got Fowler and Jones as the goaltenders in that group. Now, here's the fun part. Matheson and Dobson actually were practicing and going through drills together today. So it looks like they may very well pair up to start the preseason to see what that kind of looks like. If that's the case, then you could presume that Lane Hudson will most likely be on the ice with Caden Gooley. I don't know if I like the Matheson and Dobson pairing all that much because between them, you're talking about having about 186 turnovers last season. Not exactly where I want them to. Actually, I think it's even more than that. Could be closer to 286. But anyhow, I'm not too comfortable with it, okay? Because of the fact that they gave away the puck so much last year. You've got to have somebody out there between these 2 guys that is the defensive conscience and makes good decisions with the puck. For sure, Matheson has shown his propensity to be able to make those decisions before, but whether or not he could do it alongside Dobson and not try to push the pace too much is going to be what the Canadians are going to be watching. If he does get overly aggressive, then they're going to have a decision to make as far as whether or not he stays on that second pairing or whether or not he goes down to the third and plays alongside Carrier. It's going to be a difficult decision, but I'm pretty sure Matheson is going to be ready to be able to move forward with that particular task. Now, let's get to some of the interviews from today because they're really important. And we're going to start with Caden Gooley talking about the fact that everybody came early now to work on the ice. Now, Gooley himself actually came into town around August 22nd. So he's been in town for about 3 weeks working with Adam Nicholas along with the other guys that were on the ice. You take a look at a guy like Laine and Demidov, they've been in town all summer working, sometimes being on the ice twice a day. So Gooley talked a little bit about coming in early and seeing the other guys there and how encouraging it is.
No, it's cool. I mean, I don't really know what other teams do, but seems like we kind of have our own thing here, and guys like to come in early, get settled in. It's a good place to be at the end of the summer. So I think when you get a lot of guys in there like that, shows you how committed everyone is. And we know we got something special building here. So yeah, it's cool to see that and get everyone in early and kind of get to spend some time together before things really ramp up. So,
and that's the thing, right? Being able to spend time together before things ramp up. And that's what they got to do. They got to work on specific things with Adam Nicholas and his team, sending in videos saying, I want to work on this, and they're playing drills for him. So it was great, right? And everybody was there doing something over the summer. The rink was never empty. So it's encouraging, right? So part of the other thing that Gooley talked about was the acquisition of Noah Dobson. Now, Gooley played against Dobson in the Memorial Cup, so he knows him a little bit from junior. And he had this to say.
Yeah, no, obviously great to have him. He's obviously going to help our team out a lot. He's got a lot of he's gifted offensively. Obviously, he's had a couple really good years. I've played against him in junior and watching him play. He's so smooth out there on the ice. He's got so much poise, and yeah, we'll see. I'm not sure what the pairings are going to end up being, and yeah, we'll see. I'm sure nothing's set in stone yet, so I'm sure they'll try a lot of things. But yeah, I'm okay playing with whoever.
And that's the fun part, right? He says he'll play with whoever, nothing set in stone. And he talked about Dobson and how good he is, right? And that's encouraging. He also mentioned during the interview how happy he was with the decor and how strong they are, right? And then at a certain point, the questions for goalie turned, and they started talking about Kirby Dach because goalie did work with Dach all summer. And before we get to talking about Kirby Dach, goalie had a very interesting perspective on the mental challenges of coming back from injury. Take a listen.
It sucks. It's the worst thing you have to go through. It builds your mental toughness for sure. I know he's going to come out stronger through this. I know I've come out stronger through every single injury I've had mentally, and it sucks, but it's part of it. That's all you can really say about it. It's a physical game. It goes by fast. Stuff happens. It's just part of it. So
he also joked about the fact that Kirby Dach, had to push through some pretty difficult times, where he spent 3 hours in the gym and ended up working with 12-year-olds. I don't know where he gets that comment from, but it got the giggles out of all the reporters and me as I was listening to it. But one of the things when the interviews turned towards Kirby Dach, one thing that you noticed very clearly is that he was annoyed with all the questions about injury, and rightfully so. I mean, it's 2 years in a row that he's coming back from a knee injury, right? And I think after maybe about 16 months, 18 months, you're pretty pissed off and you don't want to talk about your injuries anymore. And so the reporters tried to frame it in a way that, he didn't really get pissed as he was asked the questions. So they kind of turned it towards, whether or not there were any lessons learned from his last rehab that may have benefited this rehab.
I don't really look at it as a challenge, more as an opportunity to right some wrongs and to do things. I mean, you learn a lot of lessons in life, and you can either choose to kind of go through those and accept them and learn from your mistakes and do things right, or you can just kind of keep going through life and making mistakes. So I looked at it as an opportunity to do the things the right way and really bear down and get ready for the season.
And that's the thing, right? That's what you want to hear from Kirby Dach. But you could see it in his face. He's just so fed up of the questions. Lessons learned. Moved on to different challenge this time around because it was a second knee injury in 2 years. And then, of course, somebody had to ask him again, did you do anything different this time?
Yeah, I spent a month in the woods. Grew a beard. No.
I mean, why would you ask the question, right? Like, come on. Ask him something that's going to be beneficial and kind of get the whole mood turned around. And somebody actually did it. They asked him a question about what Marty said about Dach absolutely being his number 2 center and how he felt about the coach's confidence. And this is what he had to say.
Yeah, it's where I want to be. I'm a center. I know I can play on both sides of the puck and be a difference maker. So I feel good, and I'm ready to do it.
And that's just it, right? Being ready to do it, being in shape to do it. You saw him on the ice today. He looked pretty good. But again, we talked about the fact that he's got to be challenged physically after his rehab to see how his knee holds up. And the reason I say that before somebody goes and writes a comment about how stupid I am is because take a sport like football as an example, right? In the entire career of a football player, lineman, running back, or otherwise, the pounding that their knees take is nowhere near what the pounding that an NHL player's knees take over the course of a single season, right? You've got the turns, you've got the hits, you've got all of it. Whereas a football player is being hit head on, digging into the ground, and really trying to, just get his best foot forward. And they're short bursts. It's not prolonged. A hockey player takes 45 seconds to a minute shifts. A football player, it's a blast for 6 seconds, relax, get back to it again. It's not consistent. So the beating that the knees take when you're a hockey player is paramount, right? There's no other sport other than maybe basketball where a player's legs take a harder pounding. With basketball, there isn't as much physicality, but you stop and start. There is some wear and tear on the knees, right? You can't deny that. But hockey's a different animal. You're on blades, you're getting pushed around, and you're working edges. So there's so much that goes into what your knees do for you when you're skating that it's the sport where your knees take the biggest pounding, bar none. And there's no argument to be had there. If you want to argue it, put it in the comments, and I'll answer back and make sure you guys know that, yeah, you're wrong. Just think about it for a minute, okay? Before you even say anything in the comments, think about the pounding that a guy takes on his knees every year. 82 games plus playoffs. A football player plays 17 games plus playoffs. So if they do get to the Super Bowl, it's 21 games. And it's 1 game a week, where most hockey players play almost 4 sometimes with back-to-back situations. Just understand where I'm coming from here. And then you get to, from Kirby Dach, we go to Patrik Laine. And Laine's situation is a little bit different because Laine, as Marty St. Louis pointed out, kind of lost his fervor for the game, thinking about retiring at one point, right? So now they started asking him, what is it like to be able to start healthy again?
Yeah, it's been good. I think big thing is that it's been fun to be healthy for a change. Obviously to get a lot of weeks and a lot of reps in. I think that's been obviously helpful, and I think all of the people around here have done a great job making sure that my programs and skates are paying off right now, and feels good. So it's been fun to spend the summer here, and went pretty well, so can't really complain.
And that's the thing, right? He spent the summer here. They had programs ready for him so he could continue to work on his health. And, it's really important for him to be in a good state of mind. And he is, and you can tell. And there's more clips to come that are going to show you that he's in a good state of mind, including this one where he talks about what Marty also mentioned was that he had lost his love of the game. And that's why he wanted to retire at one point. Well, he gave a lot of credit to not only the organization, but the city of Montreal for getting that love of the game back.
The city, the organization, fans, I think that played a big part of it. This organization is just so wonderful from, obviously starting with the owners, with the Molsons, and going all the way down. I think it's just such a family type of organization that it's a privilege for us to be a part of it, and obviously playing in probably the best place on earth to play hockey. So I think that if that doesn't get you fired up to play hockey, then you probably should be doing something else.
So that's just it. You should be doing something else if Montreal can't fire you up to play hockey. And that's it in a nutshell, right, for Patrik Laine. And you could see it, right? He's smiling. He's looking at people. He's talking. He's very candid when he speaks, right? He's always has been, even when he was a rookie with the Winnipeg Jets, where he was playing video games and doing an interview at the same time. I mean, that's just the character that he is. Now, of course, a little bit more mature, married. Things are a little bit different. But then somebody asked him, what's your goal this season? And his answer, kind of what you expected.
Win the cup. That's my goal.
To win the cup. That's my goal. Duh. Why do you ask that question? I sometimes, like yesterday, I talked about one question that was asked by a certain journalist. Now this is asked, what's your goal? Hello? What's any player's goal in the National Hockey League? To win a cup. Okay? Obviously, are the Canadiens there yet? No, but what's his goal? Dead honest, right? And so it's just fun to see, right? And then going back to what Marty St. Louis said yesterday, or the day before yesterday, I should say, about seeing the best version of Patrik Laine given his health, right? He talked about how he had his shoulder, collarbone broken, surgery, then comes back with the Canadiens, has the knee issue, only skated twice before the season last year. So here's what Patrik had to say about what his best version would look like?
No, we're not. We might not, or like we will, or we will see the best version. There's no question about that. I think the best version is a guy who skates, guy who gets his feet moving, guy who's making good plays, who's responsible out there. Hopefully, scoring every now and then. That wouldn't hurt. Yeah, I think it starts with when you have your legs, it's a little easier to advance the play instead of always stopping and looking to make a pass because you can't move. So I think legs feel great right now. So just try to get moving, and everything else is gonna open up after that. And try to shoot some pucks every now and then, and hopefully they will go in.
Pretty straightforward, right? He's feeling great. Being able to move is going to really help him generate more offense and play on both sides of the puck. And hopefully he shoots the puck and it goes in. Now we know that part of his game is not a problem, right? We know that already. And then he was asked about how much he's looking forward to playing with Ivan Demidov. And the thing about Demidov is all summer long, Laine's been at the Brossard Sports Complex, as has Ivan Demidov. Or Yvonne, I should say. I should get used to saying it properly. But anyway. And so the two guys have been working on passing each other the puck, one-timers, etc. Here's what he had to say when he was asked whether or not he's going to end up playing with Demidov.
He'll get a chance to play with me. let's put it this way. Yeah, my 10th year. No, I'm just kidding. Let's not make that a big deal. Okay. No, I mean, I think it's just special what this kid's able to do. Obviously Montreal has only seen glimpses of it since he hasn't played too many games yet. But watching him all summer, I think it was helpful to obviously try to build chemistry and work on certain things. But I think it's just special what this kid can do out there.
And that's just it. It's special what this kid can do out there. And we know that already. Kirby Dach also mentioned, after watching him for a couple of games during the season and the 5 games in the playoffs, that he could tell right away that he was special. So he's looking forward to being with Laine and with Demidov on that second line to see what they can do, which is great, right? That's what we want. We want excitement. We want anticipation. And of course, it's not going to happen all that much in the preseason. We're going to see them go out there. They're going to play. There's 8 games, I think, 6 or 7 preseason games. Can't remember anymore because they keep changing the number. But we're going to see them at least a couple of times. All right, this preseason. And hopefully a little bit more than that because, as Marty mentioned, he wants to see the team a little bit more often as a group and not necessarily split apart in a 60-player roster. But the one thing that we can take away from day 1 of camp, or we call it day 2, but it's actually the first day of camp, is that there's still a lot of work to do. We still don't know what the defensive pairings are going to look like. Obviously, seeing Goalie work with Hudson, seeing Matheson work with Dobson, I mean, it leads to a little bit of speculation, right? And that's all we can ask for at this point because we don't know for sure. As Goalie said, nothing's etched in stone. But defensively, if you look at the Canadiens' D-corps as a whole, there aren't very many gaps. You've got a guy who's extremely defensive-minded in Alexandre Carrier. You've got Noah Dobson and Lane Hudson who can bring the offense. You've got Goalie and Matheson who can be hybrid defensemen. And you've got Struble and Arbor Xhekaj who can bring a little bit more physicality and still move the puck. So there's a lot there. And of course, there still is David Reinbacher, who we barely talked about, but had a good day 2 as well. And then you look at the forwards, and there are a lot of forwards up front, right? If you look at the numbers, it's crazy. As I mentioned, Group A, they're going to get a cup of coffee with at least 1 exhibition game. I don't know they're going to get more than that, and I think Marty St. Louis is going to split the team into 2, at which point you're going to see more of an NHL roster than you would an American Hockey League roster. That still remains to be seen, and that's only going to be decided if and when the exhibition game begin on the 22nd. But the fun part about all this is very, very simple. It's building the excitement, watching the guys on the ice, seeing what they're doing. The Canadiens had a live broadcast with guys coming in and talking to whoever that was on the live video, right? And I would digress because I didn't know the host name. He never mentioned it. But overall, you see the guys having fun, coming in, talking. And so it's a different atmosphere that we would have seen 10 years ago, where everything was much more subdued and it was much more regimented and businesslike. And let's not even go 20 years ago, because my brother yesterday mentioned Pierre Gauthier, and I stopped the conversation right there. I said, sorry, no more. So let's see how it progresses. Will Owen Beck do better tomorrow? Somebody's got to talk to him about it, because he didn't look good on day one. Is Vincent Rohrs going to stay? I don't think he will. I think he's going to show well. He's going to return to Switzerland and play in the Swiss League and dominate. You know, is Estapa going to make the team? I'm not quite sure. Although he's looked good, there's not really that many spaces up front. The battle's going to be on defense. Is David Reinbacher going to be able to usurp either Arbor Xhekaj or Jaden Struble and force the Canadiens' hand? It's going to be a dilemma. And then, of course, the last dilemma is going to be, who's going to be the backup? Is it Dobesh? Is it Kakkonen? That's your battle. That's what you have to worry about. But it was an interesting day one. A lot of hard drills. Marty was serious about working these guys to the bone to get them ready for the season. And it's a fun time of year, because you weed out the guys that really aren't ready to be there just yet, and you have the guys that do. Joe Veleno spoke, and he said, you know, he's going to be trying to make one of those center positions. He wants to play. He's a natural center. That's where he wants to play. So how does he fit in? Do they move Alex Newhook to the wing and give Veleno the center spot? If that's the case, what happens to Simon Blais? He ends up in the American Hockey League? Maybe that's the case. We don't know. All that's going to be decided over the next few days. So it's going to be a fun time for all of us as Canadiens fans. Over the weekend, I won't be broadcasting, or at least I don't think I will, unless something major happens. But make sure you have a fun weekend with your families, guys. And don't forget, Saturday night at 7:15, I will be in Hawkesbury for Game 3 of the season for the Hawkesbury Knights as they take on the Collège Universel Gatineau team. It should be a fun night. Tickets are just $10 for adults, guys. So help us fill the rink and show these kids a little bit of excitement as they try to build their hockey careers. We'll see you on Monday.